Hey Ingrid, how are you?
Hi,
Great to have you on the show. Whereabouts are you at the moment?
I'm in Washington. It's pretty early here. My family's still sleeping. Hopefully, they won't wake up and run in here. But yeah, I'm doing good. How are you, Ollie?
Yeah, really well, thanks. Yeah, just been mountain biking earlier today. So yeah, I'm over in Portugal, and yeah, it's winter, but you don't really feel that it's winter. It's been good.
Wow, that sounds nice.
Yeah, and you've had loads of snow recently. I remember we were like last messaging. You said it was like 22 inches or something, like a bit
Oh,
of a dump, and
that was only part of it. We had almost 50 inches in 36 hours, and it's a state of emergency in the town where I live.
wow. And
Yeah,
like everything was closed, right? I mean, like they've closed schools and
everything was closed. It was absolutely people couldn't get out of their houses. Yeah, they had to call the National Guard to help people dig out.
oh my God. And like, how's it now?
Um, it's raining, so everyone's out shoveling their roofs because they're afraid their roofs are going to collapse. And actually, yeah, we haven't been able to go skiing at our local mountain in over a week because the road's been closed and the mountain's been closed. So they're hoping to be able to get the road open today. It's been like 7 or 8 days.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, I was going to ask you if you've been skiing, like, with all that going on, or if it's
We've
just
been skiing
been
at our local, at like rope tow stuff and a lot of Nordic skiing.
nice. Cool. Well, I'd love to, I guess, jump back to yeah, how you got into skiing and kind of where that all began and
Yeah, I was lucky enough to have parents that loved skiing, so they took me from it before, and they were on the volunteer ski patrol at Crystal Mountain, which
Mhm.
is it's about an hour and 45 minutes, 2 hours away from Seattle.
Okay.
So we went there every weekend. We drove up Friday night, and we had back then we had an old. It was a converted 1954 bookmobile.
Mhm.
So we stayed in the parking lot in that and slept there every weekend, and it was just an awesome way to be able to be on the mountain for really cheaply back then.
And would they go up like would they do that most weekends then? And you guys
Yeah,
could just camp in the parking lot and
yeah, almost every weekend, and we'd be right there, at the base of the mountain. So it was sweet. We'd ski all day and then come home and play in the snow behind the camper, and it was pretty great as a kid.
that's amazing. I
Hmm.
mean, you couldn't even think of like doing that now, right? I mean, it's sort of
I mean, you could, but it costs a lot more.
yeah. That's cool. And then was there a few like other kind of campers and like families and stuff and people doing the same sort of thing?
Yeah, there's a whole scene, and it's still going on in Washington. You can still do it at most resorts in Washington, and now you kind of have to pay. But yeah, it's a pretty cool thing here. It's a unique thing to Washington.
Nice. And when did you start racing and kind of like were you sort of competitive like ski racing when you were a kid, or did that kind of come a bit later?
I didn't start racing till I was 12, which is pretty late. Most kids start when they're, 5 or 6. So I was behind, and I was not a particularly good racer at all. I'd be one of the last people finishing at a race. But I liked it because of the friends that I met, and I just had a lot of cool girls that I'd ski around with. And over
Nice.
time, I got a little bit better. So then finally, by the time I was in college, I was a little bit better and started to really enjoy it.
Nice. And you went to Whitman, didn't you? And that was
Yeah.
like, I mean, they like they had a ski team, and you could pretty much get out
Yeah, it
and
was awesome
and
because
go the whole time.
we skied 5 days a week. We could ski, 3 days a week. We'd leave class at noon and go ski all afternoon. And then every weekend we were traveling to different places in a big van with the whole team. And it was just super fun. It kept me in college, I'm pretty sure.
And was it like was that kind of like when you didn't have class, or were you sort of bunking off class and then like going skiing and
No, it was totally sanctioned. We were going to class and then we'd have to arrange our schedule around training and stuff. But no, it was like part of the deal.
that's amazing. I went to
Mhm.
I was in Spain for a year in Sierra Nevada,
Oh, really?
like right in the south. I was studying business and Spanish, but that was like, it was like 50 minutes from the university, so we could just bus it up. And I remember doing like 2 days of lectures, Monday, Tuesday, and then have like a 5-day week up in the mountains. And
Oh my gosh,
it was crazy. And
that is
you were in New Zealand, weren't you? Like,
yeah,
I've heard.
yeah. I studied abroad in New Zealand, and that was really just an incredible experience.
Whereabouts was that? Which part?
I was in Dunedin. It's the University of Otago, so it's pretty far
Really?
south on the South Island. But it's a couple hours from a lot of skiing, and there's surfing right there. And yeah, New Zealand's the first place I went backcountry skiing. Really, I
Nice.
actually like hiked up something and ski back down it, and yeah, it was just really amazing for outdoor adventure.
Yeah, Dunedin's cool. It's kind of like I don't know. I went like I've been surfing there, and it was so cold. You got the mountains in the background. You can see all the snow, and you're like, I don't know. You need like gloves and boots and
Did you
everything, right?
surf? Where'd you surf there?
It was in the town, and it
Right
was
in
kind
town,
of
yeah.
like right in the town, and it was like all these amazing like it was a beach break, but it was perfect, and it wasn't that busy. I don't know. I guess it was like it was really cold, but
That's where all the big signs are that say you could get eaten by a shark right here.
oh really?
Yeah.
I
When I was
didn't
there,
see
it was like
I didn't see any of those when I went out.
they had like a
Uh,
shark bell that they'd ring if anyone saw a shark. It was yeah, I didn't surf at that spot too much, but
no, it was fun times. And
good.
what did you do then, like after you graduated?
After I graduated, I moved to Tahoe. I was ready to be a ski bum for a year. I was like, yeah, I finished school. I'm not quite ready to get a real job yet. I deserve a year off. And so I figured I'd be a ski bum for a year. So I moved to Tahoe and got a job at like a little cafe there, and it got me a free ski pass for
Nice.
that job, and it was like I've had it made. I was skiing every single day.
And did you just have that like, oh, I'm just gonna do it for a season, and
Yeah,
then like go back to reality or whatever that is, and like get a real job, and like
yes,
did you then just sort of think like with the people that you're surrounded by, you were thinking like, I can extend this, and
yeah. I mean, it's totally. I did it for a season, and my friend talked me into doing a free skiing contest, and I ended up getting third in my first ever free skiing contest. And I was like, oh yeah, these are my people, kind of thing. Like everyone was so awesome, and um, at that point, it didn't feel like ski bumming so much because I had something I was training for and working towards because there was a
yeah.
contest. So yeah, I was like, oh, I'll just do it for one more year, and then that turned into I don't know how many, but
And what sort of jobs were you doing?
I
Were you
was
just
working at a cafe, so I would get up super early and go and make breakfast burritos and coffees, and then I'd be out by 11 and I could ski for the whole afternoon. Or if I was on the evening shift, I could go ski all day and then come in at 3, 4 o'clock and make soup and sandwiches for people and take home a bunch of free food. And yeah, it was sweet. And then
uh,
and then in the summers, I would take up shifts. It was at a huge resort, so I could take up shifts anywhere, serving banquets or answering phones, or I'd do whatever I could to get overtime and make money, and then take a little bit of time off in the winter.
nice. And were you there on your own, or did you have family that were there like with
Oh,
you,
no,
like
I moved
with the
there on
brothers
my
and stuff?
own.
Okay.
I moved there on my own. I had an ex-boyfriend who was living there at the time, but I yeah, it was just like I didn't see him at all really, and then he moved away. So it was like, cool. I moved there and had to meet people, and that was probably the hardest part, like not knowing anyone and
Yeah.
having to start all over from scratch and meet people and find friends. But on the mountain, it was easy. You just showed up, and there was always someone who wanted to ski laps, and everyone there is there for skiing. So that part of it was really awesome to be around. Like everyone was there to recreate.
Yeah. That's cool.
Mhm.
Like, would you say it was sort of similar to college, where like it was sort of like meeting people there that were interested in the same things? Was it like that, or would you reckon it like you kind of more connected to the people sort of afterwards?
I don't know. It was different because the people I'd meet on the mountain Yeah, I don't know. I It was hard to find people who were there. Like, a lot of people were just there to party, I realized.
Okay.
Like, I'd meet people and be like, "Oh, they're cool," like, maybe they wanna go ski, but they wouldn't always show up on the mountain, you know? They'd be, like, out in the bar late, but they wouldn't be on the mountain, and then the people I found on the mountain were more like the older people who were working jobs, but then they would just go ski whenever they could, so it was funny, I had, like, 2 sets of friends.
Okay. And was there any like people that you were kind of looking up to, or like I don't know,
Ye
any I guess like mentors, so to speak, over there? Like
Yes.
when you were
Yeah.
getting involved with free skiing and the contests and
Yeah, I had a really good group of friends who were all kinda had been there for a couple years, and they were into backcountry skiing, and so they took me to do that and kinda showed me the ropes there, and then once I started doing the contest, I met some really awesome people that were just, like, took me under their wing and were willing to share information, and a lot of people could be really competitive, and they didn't wanna tell you their lines, they didn't wanna, like, talk about it, but I
Mhm.
found a couple of women, and some guys who were just like, "Oh, we'll tell you everything." This is like, they understood that the more you work together and, um, talk about it, that it's more fun for everyone. So,
Yeah,
yeah, that was a really great environment to be a part of.
nice. And what happened what like with the whole film sort of start, I guess, when Matchstick productions when those guys approached you, how was that? What happened there?
Well, that was, after I'd lived in Tahoe for a couple years and I was sort of starting to feel like, okay, I've been here for a couple years. I've been doing the free skiing contest. It's probably time to get serious and get a real job and stop goofing off. And so I had taken an internship at Powder Magazine because at that point I knew I wanted to work within the ski industry or the outdoor industry. I was like,
Mhm.
okay, I found, um, but didn't want to work in restaurants anymore. So maybe I could write or work for magazines or something. So I did that, and then that coincided with, right when I was moving back to Tahoe after that internship, I got a call from Matchstick saying, "Do you wanna come film with us?" And that's kinda when it all right when I was, like, ready to get out of it and get a real job, I got that call, and it really just pulled me right back in.
That's amazing. And where was the first place? What did they want to shoot?
They wanted well, I mean, the first thing was they didn't tell me, but it was sort of an audition, like, they took me out
Okay.
at right at the local hill, Palisades, Tahoe, um, which used to be Squaw Valley. Yeah, so we just went out and they didn't tell me, of course, but they were like seeing, could she hang? Is she good enough? You know, we've heard these things, but we have to see how she's going to work with the team. And um, yeah, I guess I did pretty good because then they invited me back to go film again.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, how was that experience? So were you like you were completely unaware then that was an audition? They were just kind of like,
Oh, yeah, I had no
yeah,
clue. I mean, I was just like, I couldn't believe that I was going out with, Shane McConkey and Scott Gaffney and whoever else. And my mind was so blown that I wasn't thinking about anything except for just like ski as hard as you can and this is your chance, go for it. But that was my mentality then. I was like young and every chance was like I had to seize it and take it and go 150%.
yeah. And was that the same season when you had your injury? Didn't you like tore your
No,
ACL? You
no, I didn't do my I tore my Achilles probably in 2010, I think. So I had several years where, I mean, my, yeah, I mean, I had like little injuries, but no, I had several years where I didn't get hurt at all. And it felt like, yeah, nothing can go wrong. Like I'm invincible. This is awesome.
And was everyone kind of like in that same mindset? So like I guess if you're surrounded by this crew of people that are kind of, going for it, it kind of puts you it just gives you confidence, right? And you can kind of
Yes, totally. I mean, people were getting hurt, but I was still in that, like the first shoot I was on in a helicopter in Bella Coola, like Hugo hurt his ankle and had to go home. And then almost every year that we filmed, Shane McConkey would have some sort of injury. Like we were out in Alaska one time and he dislocated his hip. It was so gnarly, like on the side of a mountain.
Wow.
But that was just like part of the deal. Everyone's like, oh yeah, this just happens. And then you come back. And so I guess, yeah, the mentality was like, you go hard and sometimes you get hurt, but then you come back and go hard again.
And what about like the whole, like I guess the risk side with riding, you know, with skiing mountains and avalanches and safety and precaution, all that stuff. I mean, was there like much of a thought like there is now, like about it, or you
Yeah,
know,
I
do you
mean,
reckon it was sort of riskier? Maybe I don't know if you sort of
I
younger. I
think,
guess I don't know. Like, how did you feel about it then?
well, it wasn't talked about as much for sure. It was definitely more of like macho, like it's part of the deal. Yeah, we might set off the slide, but we can outrun it, and that makes a cool shot. If you set off an avalanche and then ski out of it, that's like a sick shot. But I'm not, the people I were with were really safe. Like nobody
Okay.
wanted to get hurt or get in an avalanche. I never felt like people were pressuring me or putting me in unnecessary danger. But I also think that back then in the ski industry, it was a different, more macho mentality, and it was less accepted to say like, hey, I don't feel safe about this, or what do you guys think? Or, avalanche education was really different then. And it was all about snow science and digging pits. And now it's much more about like, hey, let's talk about this. What's our
Mhm.
decision making process? And how are we going to avoid um, an accident? So, yeah, I think it was just like a shift in the mindset of the industry,
Yeah.
if that makes sense.
Yeah. And it was sort of like, I don't know, almost like making sure that everyone's safe instead of like just trying to get the perfect shot.
Yeah,
And
yeah, totally. But everyone I was with was definitely wanted to be safe. It wasn't
yeah.
like people were just out there being like, "Oh yeah, it doesn't matter. We don't care." Um, they were experienced enough, and yeah, it was a safe crew. We were
Yeah.
never doing ridiculous, unnecessary, risky things. But it was also more like, "Oh well, this is just part of the deal. We're in the mountains. There's
Yeah.
avalanches. We're not going to try to go in set off a huge one, but we're also like, nah, if it happens,
Yeah.
you better ski
And it,
fast."
and especially like, I mean, you were going into some pretty remote, unknown places, right? Like, I mean, like in China and
Yes,
Pakistan. I mean, when did that all start?
that all
Like,
started. My first big expedition that I went on was probably a year or two after I started filming with Matchstick. So 2005, 2006, I went to Baffin Island, which was amazing. Skied a bunch of couloirs up in the Arctic.
mhm.
And then after that, I got to go on several expeditions with the North Face to China, to Pakistan. So that was all kind of like 2005 to 2010, 2011. Got to ski Denali. I went to Antarctica, and it's just really amazing travel all over the world. And um, right around, after probably around 2010, I had gotten hurt. I'd seen several accidents or lost friends and people really close to me in the mountains. And so that's when I started to realize, like, okay, we're in Greenland right now. Like, if something happens, we are so remote. It's like a helicopter. There's not a
Wow.
hospital anywhere near. Like, the nearest hospital is in Iceland, which is across an ocean. So that's when I started to realize, like, okay, we need to button it up. And yeah, so I started really thinking about the risks and the safety. And yeah.
Was that when your brother was that was that kind of like around the
Yeah.
time when he passed away, right?
Yeah, he died in 2011. So that was, yeah, right around the time I'd hurt my Achilles. My brother died, and then there was a series of really high profile accidents as well with friends and people in the ski industry. And so yeah, that really brought it home to me of like, this is, it's not all just fun and games, this is really serious and there's really risks involved. And it can affect your whole life, and everyone who loves you is counting on me to be safe out there.
Yeah. And were you do you think were you talking about it back then, like with people close to you, or were you kind of, do you reckon you were sort of keeping it to your chest a little bit? And
I mean, the people that I was closest with, my friends, yeah, I mean, we were talking about it a lot, but then it was still going out in the mountains with people. The people that I was closest with knew, but it was still like I wasn't making the connection of like, oh, I'm not having fun, or I'm super freaked out here because of my brother dying. It was more like, this is not safe. I guess I'm not explaining it very well, but when you first find your voice, I guess, and
yeah,
it's really important to speak up, it can often come out as really loud, really shrill, really aggressive. Like I was just like, this isn't safe. This is stupid. Why are we here? Or I would just not be having fun, and I'd be a real downer on the team, I guess. And so looking back, I can say, well, yeah, of course, I was totally like going through grief, and I'd had all these losses, and but it's not immediately obvious.
yeah.
At the time, I was just like, why can't I get it together? Why can't I have fun? Why can't I just like not be scared every time I'm out in the mountains?
And there would have been a lot of pressure, like with the on the project for the brands, sponsors, everything, right? And kind of,
Yeah, I mean, totally. I didn't know any different. I was like, this is what I do. This is the only, like, all my self-worth, my identity, my career, my income is all tied up in skiing. And when I can't do that, or when it's not going well, it was like, I have got nothing. Who am I? Like, you know? So yeah, I can look back now and say it was a time of like huge growth and character building. But at the time when you're in it, it just
yeah.
seems really like, what's going on? Something's wrong with me.
And when do you reckon it changed? Like after you sort of started speaking out about it, and eventually after time, I guess, right?
Yeah, it just takes time for me. It took time, and really trying to realize, and a lot of self-reflection, a lot of like
Yeah.
talking about it. And then when you realize like, oh man, I'm saying the same thing over and over again to my friends, like maybe I need to do some work here. And yeah, it just takes
And
time, I guess.
yeah. And were you then like sort of with the film projects? Did you have any sort of options where you could kind of pick which ones that you wanted to do, or like was there kind of more flexibility kind of as the years went on, and when you sort of like look at things and you can go, no, I don't want to do that,
A
like
little bit,
this
a
would be
little
more
bit,
fun
but
than.
yeah, that didn't happen more till when I had kids, I guess, because for so long that was how I operated, was say yes to everything, do every trip, because it was still like I have this dream job, and if I say no to one thing, it could all go away in a second. Like, I mean, I think most people in any job kind of feel that way. Like, if I turn
Yeah,
down a gig, if I turn down a job, if I
yeah, yeah,
turn down
yeah.
a contract, it might all go away. And that was very much how I was operating.
And then when you sort of decided to have kids, and like with the project that you did then, I'd love to kind of talk about that lineage. And like, I mean, did you think like, okay, it was that choice of, okay, if I'm going to have children, is that gonna obviously is gonna have some impact on my career? Like, I'm probably be able to travel less. Like, what did you like? What was the decisions around that sort of time?
Well, I thought that when I decided to have kids, that all my sponsors would drop me, because that wasn't really a thing. Even like 5 or 6 years ago, there weren't many women who were professional skiers and snowboarders in, free riding, who could have kids and then still continue their career. It was like, oh, she's having kids, she's choosing to move on, she's not in it anymore.
Wow, that's crazy. Thinking like
I know, and it's
that's
changed a
how.
lot in the past couple of years, because now you see a lot of women having kids and bringing them along for the ride. And it's super
Yeah.
cool because moms, it's not like you just have a kid and then you want to stop doing anything fun. Like, but yeah, I mean, it's all part of the marketing machine. And as that changes and as society changes, it becomes more accepting of moms and dads who want to keep living their life and bring their kid along. Yeah, I think it becomes more accepted. And but yeah, at the time it was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna have kids and all my sponsors are gonna drop me and I gotta figure something else out and how to make money and how to have a different career.
Wow. And like, why are you thinking about that then? Were you thinking like,
Yeah, I was,
should I be going into something else? Should I be getting out of the ski industry or?
totally, yeah, but it was like I didn't have it figured out yet, but I knew that I wanted to have kids and that I just like clock was ticking and yeah, it was time. So I'd like it was like do it now and figure it out later because yeah, that's just how life works, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of almost see it as the other way around. It's almost like, like the whole sort of role model thing, and like brands should be like jumping to get involved in that because of all this, like, this market of like you said, like assuming like when you have kids, the fun doesn't stop, right? You do want to then like if you're going to go and do things with them, it's even more fun,
Yeah, for
That's it,
sure.
right? And
Totally.
kind of like what your parents did when they were taking you every weekend and going like going to the mountains and yeah. And
Yeah.
when was the idea with the film then? When you like went away with your first baby and with your husband, and you even got your parents involved, didn't you, as well?
Oh yeah, it takes a village. Well, I mean, I think that was more like me just wanting to prove to myself and like I can still do this. Like we can just bring the baby along. Nothing's gonna change. It's all gonna be the same. Oh, how naive I was. But yeah, I think that was very much how can I still do this in a way that because I wasn't, you know, I wanted to still be with my baby when both of them when they were little.
Mhm.
So that was like, how can I ski and travel and go still be a part of this? And yeah, it just all worked out. And it was not easy, as you know, traveling around with a kid. You told me that
Yeah.
you've done a lot of travel with
Yeah, so
a small child.
when my son was when he was 2, we went around Europe to all these different festivals. We went to like 25 festivals with him, and yeah, on paper, like you probably have the same thought. It's like everything's going to be fine, and it's just going to be like it's going to be smooth sailing. We'll bring him along for the ride; it will be cool. And then, like like second festival and third festival, and it's like, oh, it's gonna be a bit tricky doing this, and yeah, by the end of it, you're like, oh, okay, I'm glad that that's done. But now looking back, and this was like just before the pandemic, it was like looking back at like that experience, like it's amazing, and like being able to like do that, like and share it with family was really cool. And
Yes, 100%. It's sometimes at the time it's not pretty and you're like, this is like barely worth it. The like worth it meter is like
yeah,
barely worth it. But then you look back on it and it's such an amazing experience and yeah, really worth all the late nights or the no sleep or the logistical challenges. Cause it's one thing when you're dirt bagging around and on your own, and I've like,
yeah.
slept in parking lots or in the back of cars or whatever it is. But when you have a little kid, you're like, oh, I suppose I should try to be a little more responsible.
Yeah. I was taking him to like we were doing some of these cultural festivals in Spain, and one of them was like, like a wine fight or like some of the stuff, or there's like a tomato festival as well where they're throwing tomatoes. People are like, "You're not going to go in there with him," and he's sort of like strapped to me. I'm like, no, we're going to be on the edge, like just taking photos, got my GoPro out and stuff. Yeah, so there's this kind of there's things which go through your mind, and you're like, oh, how much can you do, or like should you, and all that stuff. And, yeah.
Oh, that's really funny. He didn't get hit by a tomato, did he?
No, he was okay. Yeah, it was all good.
That is
and then when it got too sketchy, like he was with my wife and stuff, and yeah, it was okay. He was with mum.
Oh my gosh.
Uh,
Is there like video of this somewhere? I want to see this.
yeah, there's a couple like from the past years, and yeah, and then now it's sort of, I don't know. I think it's sort of, it just gets easier and easier, right? I mean, as they get older, then it's sort of, yeah. If they grow up with it, it sort of becomes their normal of like, I don't know,
Yes.
going out, going in the outdoors, doing these things, and yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, for sure. Except for there's less adult ski time as they get older, I've found, because then it's like if I take adult ski time, then it's like taken away from their ski time. So yeah, it's definitely it's always a changing dynamic, and there's always a new phase, and it keeps it exciting, which is what's really fun.
Yeah, and like now, I guess like looking back over like over all those movies, I mean, are there any kind of you probably get asked this a bit, but like any sort of like moments that stand out, which were sort of like your like if you had to pick like a favorite time or place, what do you reckon it would be?
Um, I mean, there's a lot of good times, but probably, oh gosh, of course I'm gonna space the movie, but the year before my brother died, we were both living in Tahoe, and he filmed with Matchstick as well. And so we had so many fun days in the backcountry together, just skiing. And it's a segment in a Matchstick movie of us skiing together. Um, and that was, yeah, that was a really good season. And right before that, we had all climbed Mount Rainier as a family, and I'd skied down it. One of my brothers is a snowboarder, Ralph, and so he
Mhm.
snowboarded, and my brothers and I skied down Mount Rainier, and my parents summited and then walked back down. And I think it was just a really special time of all of us living in Tahoe and having dinners together, going shredding together, and just, yeah, bringing it all back around to our childhood growing up right on the mountain, and kind of being like, oh yeah, we're all kind of doing this in a different way, but we're all doing it together. So that was a really
Mhm.
special time. And then obviously, yeah, after having kids, that's a whole another phase of my life that's just the most rewarding and kind of where it's all been leading.
Yeah.
um, and I feel so fortunate that I've been able to, yeah, have a family and to meet Jim, my husband, and that my parents are so supportive. And yeah, it's a whole another phase of it, as you know.
Yeah, and like now, like, are there any kind of places that you'd want to revisit with the family, or like any kind of spots that you haven't been to? I mean, you've done quite a lot of traveling. Is sort of like any places that you've missed that you still want to see, or any places that you go back to?
I still have like this funny dream of doing a full family like European trip.
Oh,
Just
really?
because, yeah, it'd be awesome. I mean, skiing in Europe is so amazing, and the culture, and yeah, to bring my kids there and ski with my husband there, and um, bring my parents, and that would be really amazing. Um, yeah, it's there's so many places in the world, and yeah, it's I don't need to necessarily go to all of them, but there's a couple places that it would be really fun to go as a family for sure.
Mhm. And like whereabouts in Europe? What kind of sticks out?
Well, Chamonix is amazing, and
Yeah.
that's just a really special place. And then I've never skied in St. Anton
Okay. Yeah.
or in Arlberg or any of those places. So I've always heard that's amazing. I'd love to check that out and kind of just cruise around. It'd be super cool to be able to travel around the Alps with the family. I know it would be so challenging, but maybe when the kids are a little older, I don't know.
Yeah. No, yeah, yeah, we're kind of, I don't know, like we thought about like doing like maybe not this season, but next season, kind of doing Austria a bit more, and yeah, kind of like exploring around there and stuff. And yeah, there's so many resorts, I guess, that you can kind of, you can test things out, and you can see how it goes with the family and stuff, and cruise around. So It's cool.
Yeah, exactly. And you'd bring your son with?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And what are you working on now? So what's kind of coming up and
Well, this past season or the past 2 seasons, I was working on a movie called The Approach
Mhm.
film, and so that is out now, and that was a really cool project. It's just about showing all the people that are out there actually shredding. I think generally in ski and snowboard films, it's been white people, that have been shown, and so showing adaptive skiers,
Yeah.
skiers with different bodies and different, um just representing all the people that are out on the mountain and showing that it is a place for everyone, but it's not easy for everyone to get there, and that, I've had super fortunate my parents brought me, but that might not be everyone's story, so just
Yeah.
telling different stories and, um, yeah, I guess just, that's been a really fun and rewarding project and really, eye-opening for me
And
learning about.
it was like an all women production as well, wasn't it? So it's
Yeah,
like all
yeah, it was, all women. My friend Anne Cleary filmed and directed it and did a lot of the editing. And so,
nice.
yeah, we had women behind the scenes, in front of the camera. There's one male skier, Vasu Sojitra, who's an amazing adaptive skier, and he's the first part of the first adaptive ski descent of Denali this past winter. So
Mhm.
he's kind of just on fire. Um, Shredding as well. But yeah, just time to show that there's more types of people that do enjoy getting after it in the mountains.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean that's it, right? It's for everybody. It shouldn't be this like kind of exclusive thing or like whatever, It's sort of like it's I think it's good
Yeah,
to kind of bring that to light.
yeah, exactly. And everyone can say, "Oh, well, the mountains are free; anyone can go." But the reality is, it's not that easy. And
Yeah.
I think for me, reflecting on how I got there, and I had parents that made it a priority, and you know, we were able to do that. But that's not how it is for everyone.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. And what are you kind of now like looking towards and sort of like this year, like what are you what have you got coming up?
Well, we're working on sort of a second approach 2.0. We don't have a name for it, but just taking everyone really had a good time last year. But people want to bring their riding to another level, and for me, it's about how can I support that and
Yeah.
use all my experience within the industry to help, um, yeah, support and lift others up, and yeah, hopefully get to shred a little bit on my own and be with my family, and try to support and balance all of the things.
Nice. And now how do you reckon like being involved for quite a while? I mean, like looking at the changes in the industry, what do you see sort of happening now?
Um, I'm really encouraged by a lot of the things I'm seeing. I think that social media has changed the industry in so many ways, and some of them not so great, but I think for the most part, it's given a lot more people a chance to be involved,
Mhm.
and it's not like you can only do it in this one way anymore.
Yeah.
People can do it in all the different ways and represent all different types of sports and all different people, all different ways of doing it. So yeah, it's just anything goes, and I'm really encouraged by that. And I just think that for me, I like watching women shred and ski and snowboard, and because that's what resonates with me. And so I think the more that women pick up a camera and are like, check me out. I don't know. I think the more the better, because for
Yeah.
so long it's been. I mean, I like, obviously I like guys too. I'm married to one, and I've skied with a lot of them. But yeah, I think
But
that
it's been male focused, right? I mean, the whole like
yeah,
across
totally. And I think I mean,
most of
people
these
are.
sports.
Yeah, totally. I think there's room for all of it, I guess is what I'm trying to say. There's room for all
Yeah.
of it. There's room for all the different types of perspectives and many different stories to be told. And yeah, that's what I'm mainly excited about, is hearing from different people and seeing different people represented. And yeah.
Awesome. And if people want to follow what you're up to with the new approach 2.0 and kind of what you're working on, what's the best way?
Well, I guess I post sporadically on Instagram, so probably Instagram at
Mhm.
Ingrid Backstrom, and then at The Approach Film is the way to follow along with that project.
Awesome. Great. Good stuff. Well, Ingrid, thanks so much for your time. It's been really, really good speaking to you, hearing all your stories and kind of where it's come from and where it's going. And yeah, we'll definitely be keeping an eye out on the approach. And yes, it's going to be good to see what you're going to be up to.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much, Ollie. It's great to talk to you and have so much fun shredding around with your family this winter.
Thanks, you too.
All right. Take care.